Why is Congress buying so much stock right now? So there's this thing happening right now that most people have no idea is even legal. The same people who write the laws, who sit on the committees that decide which industries get funded, which companies get contracts, which regulations pass or die. Those same people are allowed to buy and sell stock in those exact industries, and they're doing it a lot. Stick with me for the next 15 minutes because by the end of this, you're going to look at every random market move a little differently. What's actually going on? Let's start with the basics because I don't want to just throw numbers at you without context. There's a law called the Stock Act. It passed back in 2012. The whole point of it was transparency. Members of Congress can legally trade stocks, but they have to disclose it. Any trade over 1000, they've got 45 days to file what's called a periodic transaction report. Sounds reasonable, right? Disclosure, transparency, sunlight is the best disinfectant, all that. Here's the problem, 45 days is a long time. And this part's wild, a lot of members don't even hit that deadline. Just recently, one congressman disclosed 32 separate stock trades. 22 of them were filed after the legal deadline. Some of those trades were almost 2 years old before anyone found out about them. 2 years. Who's actually doing well? Now here's where it gets interesting. There are people who track this full time, sites like Quiver Quantitative, Trendline, a few others, and they publish leaderboards. Literally, who in Congress made the most money trading stocks? And the returns are not normal. We're talking about members posting 50% plus annual returns, 37%, 35%. Year after year, multiple names beating the SP 500 by a wide margin. Now, could some of these people just be really good investors? Sure, theoretically. But when you've got dozens of people across both parties consistently outperforming professional fund managers whose entire job is picking stocks, you start asking questions. And to be fair, this isn't a one-party thing. The most recent top 10 list for returns had members from both sides of the aisle on it. This isn't a them versus us story, it's the system allows this story. The part that should bother you, here's the actual issue. And I want to say this carefully because it's a nuanced point. It is not illegal for a member of Congress to own stock. Everybody needs a retirement account. Nobody's saying politicians should live in poverty. The issue is timing and committee assignments. When someone sits on a committee that oversees defense contracts and they're buying defense stocks right before a vote that benefits that industry, that's not automatically illegal. But it's the kind of thing that makes regular people feel like the game is rigged. And look, analysts who track this stuff have pointed out patterns. Heavy buying in AI infrastructure companies, selling out of social media stocks right before regulatory pushes. It doesn't prove anything on its own, but it's a pattern, and patterns are worth paying attention to. What Congress is trying to do about it now, to be fair to the system, there is movement on this. There's a bill, HR 7008, that already passed the House back in July. If it becomes law, members of Congress, their spouses, and their dependents would be blocked from buying certain investments outright. And if they want to sell something, they'd have to publicly announce it 7 to 14 days before the sale happens. There's also a Senate resolution that already passed, banning senators and their staff from participating in prediction markets, which, if you think about it, is basically the same conflict of interest problem in a different wrapper. So there is bipartisan pressure building. Multiple bills sitting in committee right now. Whether any of them actually pass into law with real teeth, that's the part I'd stay skeptical about. Congress banning its own stock trading is a little like asking someone to vote themselves a pay cut. How you can actually track this yourself, okay? This is the part I think people will find genuinely useful. You don't need insider access to see any of this, it's all public. There are free trackers, Quiver Quantitative, Capital Trades, Congress Stock Tracker, where you can search by politician, by company, by date. You can literally see what Nancy Pelosi's portfolio did, what any senator or representative bought last week, and cross reference it against what committee they sit on. Now, I'm not saying go copy Congress's trades and get rich. Some of these platforms literally market themselves that way, and I take that with a massive grain of salt. Past disclosed trades are historical, they lag by weeks, and correlation isn't a strategy, but as a transparency tool, as a way to just know what's happening with public money and public trust, it's genuinely worth 5 minutes of your time to go look. The bigger picture, step back for a second. We live in a moment where trust in institutions is already shaky, and stories like this, regardless of which party, regardless of intent, they chip away at something important. The basic idea that the people making decisions for us aren't also personally profiting from those decisions in ways we can't fully see until it's too late. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy to be a problem. Sometimes the problem is just the incentives are broken and nobody with the power to fix it has a reason to. That's not a left thing or a right thing. That's a how does a functioning system actually work thing. So where does that leave us? Disclosure exists, but it's slow and loosely enforced. Returns are unusually strong for people who aren't supposed to be full-time traders. There's real light is the best disinfectant, all that. Here's the problem. 45 days is a long time. And this part's wild, a lot of members don't even hit that deadline. Just recently, one congressman disclosed 32 separate stock trades. 22 of them were filed after the legal deadline. Some of those trades were almost 2 years old before anyone found out about them. 2 years. Who's actually doing well? Now here's where it gets interesting. There are people who track this full time, sites like Quiver Quantitative, Trendline, a few others, and they publish leaderboards. Literally, who in Congress made the most money trading stocks? And the returns are not normal.
Pelosi bought 200 call options on Uber with the exact same $50 strike price and the exact same March 19th, 2027 expiration date, which almost identically matches the Intel trade. But this trade is
We're talking about members posting 50% plus annual returns, 37%, 35%. Year after year, multiple names beating the SP 500 by a wide margin. Now, could some of these people just be really good investors? Sure, theoretically. But when you've got dozens of people across both parties consistently outperforming professional fund managers whose entire job is picking stocks, you start asking questions. And to be fair, this isn't a one-party thing. The most recent top 10 list for returns had members from both sides of the aisle on it. This isn't a them versus us story, it's the system allows this story.
But it's moving at a government speed and it is a main time. The data is a public, which means the accountable is already us, the people watching, and to actually look. I dropped links to track I mentioned so you can dig in yourself. Yeah, absolutely right. Why is Congress buying so much stock right now? It will be main targeting and it will be shocking to humanize because stock market become more than you expecting, and majorly the company or whatever the political leaders also buying these stocks. So what actually going on here? Let's start with the basis because I don't know want to just throw out a number without context. The law of a call stock act passed in 2012. The whole point of was transparent members of the Congress can legally to trade stocks, but you have disclosed any other trades over $1,000, you get 45 days to file what's called a periodic transitions report. Sound reasonable, right? Disclosure, transparency, and sunglasses in the difference, all that. Here, the problem was 40-50 days along the time, and it's parts wild. Lots of members even they hit the deadline. The just recently, with Congress they disclosed to party 32 for 20 separate stocks, 22 of where after legacy or legal deadline sum of traders we almost 2 years old before any found out of them. 2 years Exactly, who actually doing well. Now here where it is going interesting, there are people who tracking is a full time, size like a quarters, it quantum and trend few others. They act publicly, leaders polls, and literally who is congress made by most money trading stocks and returns are not normally. Exactly, we're talking about members posting a 50% trust plus annual returns. It's maybe 15% or 37% or 35%. Year after year, multiple name beating the end of P 500% by wild margin. Now could be some these people just being a real good investors, right? Sure, the theoretically, but when you got a dozen of people is across the world, practicals and consistency outperforming the professional founding managers who enter the job picking stocks, you start asking for questions. And be fair, it's then one party thing. The most of recent stocks and least returns had to members from both sides of LNC on it. It's there a them versus a story. It's not a system or a story. The part of who should be brothers to you. That's all. He actually issue what they saying is carefully because to no money band it is not a legal of member congress to won't stack everybody needs to retirement account. Nobody is saying a politics should be live in a party. The issue is the timing is committee assessment. When someone sits on a community that oversees its defense and contrasts, they ask to buy a defense stocks the right before voting the benefits. In that industries are not automatically legal, but the kind of things they make say regularly people to like a game is regrets feels and look like analytical which tracks stops to move. And we cannot buying AI infrastructure company and sending out our social media stocks right before regularly post. It does not proving anything. It's no one, but it's a pattern, and a pattern worth paying attention to. Yeah, right. What is the wrong with existing rules on congressional stocks trading? The Congress starts trading as a long surprise when public outraged it is existed regularly. That process have failed in accommodate the address of the problem securely exists act of 1934 amended to private inside trade on the stock market by maintain the disclosure, but the requirement is not applied to member to congress. It look may be the more than 7 declares of the stock act introduction to 2006 and passed in 2012 to partially close the loophole. Its require members of a Congress is disclosed stack tradings of more than $1,000. What? More than $1,000 within 30 days. But its penalty for the failures of disclosures of extremely weak. The more than $200 for a first violations. Violation of say is also difficult to uncover the official congressional conduct is an independent body in the House. Its tax investor violation reflected and to the House ethics and communicate, but investors privately after the suspense powers of it can be obligations at any time. So can changing House rules that its sentence it may be ethics and communicate task with administrative finance is disclose and investigate algorithms and misconducting. No independent investors body like of office congressional conduct exactly. Yeah, here. If kind of you follow the money, the follow the power. The content is something you want more of it. Subscribe. I am going to digging and like a drop the comment. Do you think Congress should be banned from trading stocks entirely? Comment please. I actually want to be know where you land on this. See you in next one.